I'm here with Grace Alexander, and we're going to give her an interview today, find out what's on her mind about a couple of things, and talk about some of her racing. So, first of all, I read that you went to Rollins College, and you have an article in there from right after you graduated. Uh, there's a big unanswered question in it. Why did you actually sign up for that first triathlon in 2016?
I had actually done a few triathlons before, but they were very spaced out, not really trained for, and they were like once a year maybe. But then after I graduated college, I took like a year and a half off from basically all exercise and didn't really have anything to work towards and realized that that wasn't the kind of person that I wanted to be because there was no goal in the future without racing or training. Um, and I actually ended up signing up for the Atlanta Thanksgiving half with a goal of going sub 2 hours and a half, and then raced that 2015. And after that, I decided I was in good enough shape to where I would sign up for the Jekyll Olympic distance triathlon in May of 2016. So that's kind of how I ended up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I guess after that first season, well, the first season you kind of committed to it, were you kind of hooked?
Yeah. After that race, I crossed the finish line first, but I got a 2-minute penalty for drafting. Um, so that put me in second. I don't know if I probably did. I just was unaware of rules at that point. It was my first try back in the game, I guess. And so after that race, I remember calling or talking to my friend on the way home. I just remember texting her, being like, all right, this is what I want to do. My goal in life is to be a professional triathlete. And so that's kind of how I started down this road.
Okay. Now, I read that article about what your coach said. It said that you used to play with your opponents starting in your sophomore year, and you like to come out strong at the end. Have you kind of carried any of that into triathlons at all?
It's hard to because like with swimming, I swim distance, and so my like race strategy there was just to go out steady strong and then pick up negative split the second half of the race. And with triathlon, since it's three different disciplines, I've found it's difficult, especially with swimming being my strong suit. I typically come out of the water towards the front and then I'm holding on and fighting to that position all the way to the finish line. So like ideally my bike and run gets stronger, which is what I'm working towards, and I could maybe see if that strategy works again. But for right now, it's no, I can't really say that I do that. Like that's not my plan when I go into a race.
Yeah, my plan is to just not get past because I'm a pretty good swimmer. But then every single person catches up to me on the bike and one, two, three. I'm like, how many people didn't pass me?
Yeah, keeping that in mind every
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Um, so you might be one of the only people who get a chance to race in 2020, depending on how things work out with the coronavirus. How'd you feel about that, knowing that the Claremont might be the only one that happens this year?
That wasn't my best performance. I have mixed feelings with that race because looking at it, um, like my run, I hadn't been training as much the month prior to the race because I had been dealing with some SI injuries. And so, considering where my run was at, I actually did do pretty well in that discipline. The bike was actually very strong, but the swim, I just made like a technical error at the beginning of the start, and draft legal races, when you make a mistake like that, it can make or break your race. So actually that race, my swim was the weakest and I was kind of fighting my way up coming out of the water. So I mean, I wish that it had gone better, but I'm happy that I was able to race.
Yeah. Do you have a preference for draft legal racing, or do you? I mean, do you like just regular non-drafting?
Drafting is exciting and fun, but I think I do prefer non-draft legal and like half Ironman because you can't hide. Like with drafting, some people really do take advantage of the fact that you can just sit behind someone else on the bike and save your legs for the run. But I like the more honest, longer races where it's really you got to show that you put in the training to accomplish it.
Now, tell me about your experience at ITU Grand Nationals. You got fourth, is it 2018 in your age group, and then came back second the following year in Lucerne.
Yes. So 2018, it was an awesome experience. First time at Worlds, so obviously everything's new and exciting. And I really had no idea what competition was going to be like at that point. I knew about the girls that were like in my age group from Racing Nationals, and I knew that they were going to be there. So we kind of found each other at the start of the race before the swim, knowing that we all have similar swim abilities. And that 2018 race, when the gun went off, immediately like a group of 4 girls like separated themselves from the swim, myself, the 2 girls I just told you about, and then a girl from France. And we came out of the water a good minute behind 5th and the rest of the pack. So that was really exciting to like come out of the water that far ahead in like this world championship event that you had no expectations of. So really I was just trying to hold on to that position as much as possible for the bike and the run. And then, yeah, ended up 4th. Was super stoked about that. And then 2019 in Lausanne, I had obviously a little bit more experience. So saw some of the names on the start list I recognized, but really like I like to approach races just like with a clear mind, having fun, knowing that this isn't like my 100% job. So it's, you know, something that I do want to enjoy, even if it's painful. But I mean, that race went really well. Also, the swim, I've been struggling with that since my collarbone break. And so after coming out of the water there, a good bit behind the girls that I had been with the year prior, it was kind of catch up again on the bike and the run.
I remember you were with Marcos the day you broke your collarbone. Can you tell me more about it? I don't remember it all that well, though.
Yeah, it was just a normal, I guess, Saturday training ride up in Cartersville. It was me and I think there were 4 or 5 other people. We were about halfway through, 35 miles into the 70-mile ride, like way up on the north end. And I don't know if you're familiar that there's like dogs that roam around there.
Yeah, I've done it for many years and been chased quite a few times.
Yeah, so it would be cooler to say that I was chased, but really I was just preparing to be chased. The dog was actually not being very aggressive, but I was in the back of the pace line, luckily, and I was grabbing my water bottle with my right hand. So my left hand was on the brake, and the group in front of me started to slow down, pressed the brake too hard, and I just went over my handlebars, broke my collarbone, ambulance to the hospital. Yeah, so luckily I was with a good group, and they were able to like take care of my bike and figure out all the technical stuff that I couldn't deal with because I was at a hospital.
Okay. Now, you came back kind of quick from that, from what I remember. It didn't seem like you were out all that long. I think you were running like pretty shortly after that, and you kind of picked up, what was it? You picked up the swim last.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I broke it and I got the x-ray, I knew it was going to be a surgical fix. It wouldn't heal naturally with the way it was broken. So one of the girls I was riding with, Megan Gachet, I don't know if you know her, she's on ATC. She recommended a orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Daniel Orcutt, and he's a triathlete. So that kind of caught my interest because I knew that he would understand my like rush to get back into training and racing. And at that point, I was 10 weeks out from nationals and I think 14 weeks out from worlds. And the week before, I broke it the Saturday of late Memorial Day weekend, which is coming up. And so I couldn't get surgery on it. He said he could put me in immediately for surgery on Thursday, when the other surgeons I had talked to were like, yeah, maybe we can get you in for like a consult this week, but surgery won't be for like 2 weeks. And that was just not going to fly if I knew that I could get it quicker. So went to him for surgery, and he got me all fixed up. I was in a sling for 10 days. He didn't want me to sweat, didn't want me to use the arm at all, stay in the sling as much as possible. So 3 days after the surgery, I went on a walk. About 4 or 5 days after that, I mean, I was walking basically every day if I could. And then I did one arm TRX band exercises, just like squats, lunges, whatever I could do. And then went to him for a checkup. They took off the sling. And that was the next day I went running, which was, I think, 2 weeks after the surgery. Just easy 3-mile run. Felt okay, definitely painful, not used to having like metal in your arm, you know. So kept up running, just nice and easy for a little bit. And then during that time, I was going to LA Fitness. I was on the stationary bike. I actually probably started biking like 5 days after the surgery, just probably pushing out maybe 80 watts, just to muscle memory kind of stuff, not trying to gain any endurance or push anything really. And then, yeah, the swim was the last thing to come back, and that was about 6 weeks after the surgery. And that was just light kicking, maybe 1,000 yards here and there. So I was able to race nationals, although he was kind of hesitant to let me, because typically the bone doesn't heal possibly for 12 weeks. But my x-rays came back. I went to him for an x-ray the week before nationals just to make sure, final check, everything was good and I could race. So yeah, I wasn't out for very long. I mean, I made sure just to do whatever I could within like a safe range, and not to do anything stupid that would keep me out longer. That was the last thing I wanted to do, but I definitely had my eye on nationals and wanted to do that if possible.
You did pretty well at it.
Yeah, no, I was that was kind of like my drive, actually. I think, you know, hearing people who had also broke their collarbone, it's very common in cycling and triathlon, unfortunately, but they were, you know, very encouraging and friendly, trying to say like, that stinks, like your season's over, but you know, you'll get them next time. And that I knew they meant nothing harmful by that, but that was almost my drive to push to get to nationals, because I was like, if I can do this smart, safe, push through it, and really get to a place where I feel like I can throw down something at nationals, that'll be like, that'd be awesome.
Now, if I recall right, your Galveston 70.3, that was your first half Ironman?
Yes.
Do you have any desire to kind of qualify at 70.3 to go to St. George?
So I'm supposed to be doing Gulf Coast next weekend. That's obviously not happening. And that's kind of dependent on if I want to, is St. George in 2021, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So possibly. It all depends on if I take the pro card or not. Obviously, if I don't, I'll want to try to qualify for that. I'm definitely going to do another 70.3. That'll probably be my focus, actually, if I do take the pro card. But it's all going to depend on that, I think.
So if you take your pro card, are you gonna go all in and be, this is the only thing I'm gonna do and I'm gonna make my living at this, or are you gonna try to still maintain a day job and do this?
So that's hard, because obviously you need to support yourself. So if I get to a point where I can support myself doing full-time triathlon, absolutely. But it's hard to get to that level without focusing on it full-time. So it's kind of something I'm still like fighting between. I think for now, the plan is to just, you know, keep my job and keep a job and train as much as possible to see what level I can get at while maintaining a full-time job, because also need health insurance. Broke my collarbone. That would have been super expensive without it. So I think I'll enter in the pro field with a job and then seeing how that goes. You know, if it's possible to reach podium levels in pro races, then I'll probably start considering other options.
Are you still with the Shepherd Center?
Yeah.
Now, how did you find that job?
Once I graduated college, my brother, who's a physical therapist there, I was looking into medical field routes, and he suggested that I just volunteer there to get some experience. And so I started volunteering there right when I graduated. And then about 6 months later, a position opened up. I applied for it and got it. So I've been there since then. Yeah, that's how I started there.
So I happen to have a traumatic brain injury. What can you say you've learned from dealing with people with brain injuries?
The human body is very resilient. I work in a department where we see spinal cord injury, brain injury, MS, various different neurological injuries that people have come across. And we basically, the department I work in, we get the patient in a harness, and then we strap them into a body weight supported treadmill. And over time, we can give them more and more of their body weight support as they walk. Hopefully they get stronger, and then eventually they don't need the body weight support and they can just walk over ground like how they used to. But seeing people push through their injury on the treadmill and their drive and optimism, and I'm so surprised to see patients and how happy they are just to be, and they're grateful to be at the Shepherd Center and being able to be helped and work as hard as possible to get back to the life that they lived before. It's amazing.
Yeah, they don't take everybody. They're pretty selective in who they take. You kind of have to have a bad injury to get in there.
Yeah, I don't know the details of that because I don't work in that department, I guess, but it's definitely, you see some extreme cases, and then also I'm sure it depends on insurance. I don't know.
Yeah. So now getting back to training, I tend to see you mostly on a road bike. Do you prefer to do a lot of your work on a road bike rather than on your tri bike?
Not necessarily. The whole switch to road bike outdoors kind of came with me getting a kicker trainer, and I just like leaving my tri bike on it because the one time I took it off and put it back on, I messed up the derailleur, and I just don't want to deal with that.
I got you. Now, even though you have Zwift, you're not one of those people who I'm never going outside again. You're still outside pretty regularly.
Oh yeah. I try to only use Zwift if it's raining outside or really cold, or I just don't have the time to drive somewhere safe to bike. But I've actually recently found that the group rides on Zwift are awesome. So I've been hitting those up for the steady rides.
Yeah, I've yet to get up that early to do any of them. But
Yeah.
now, how do you think the coronavirus is going to impact the rest of the season? Do you think there will be a season? Because to me, I've been looking forward to pretty much Daytona. That's when I think the earliest we could get in.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. My Gulf Coast race was postponed to November 7th. I haven't gotten many emails about nationals, which is usually early, mid-August. So, I mean, ideally by August, but who knows hopefully we can find something out more about when we open up the country and see how that affects everything. But I think that there'll hopefully be some end of the year racing. It might not be the half Ironman huge races, maybe just local smaller races, but that would be, I'm sure people would love to just do any race at this point.
Well, if you didn't hear by now that Peachtree was moved till Thanksgiving, do you think you'll be able to do that, or do you think you want to do that?
Oh, this will be my 19th Peachtree Road race. I've done it every year since I was 10, so I have to do it basically at this point. Whether it's racing or just taking it as an easy run, that's totally fine with me to do either. So as of right now, it's right in the middle of Gulf Coast 70.3 and Challenge Daytona. So I assume I will be taking it easy, but I will be there for sure.
Maybe a drinking Peachtree again, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
More fun that way.
So, do you have any ambitions of trying to go to Kona and qualify?
0. Ironman is just something that's, I see the drive and why people want to do it. It's a huge challenge and something to work towards, but right now I'm still getting faster, so I want to work on speed over distance, and maybe like when I start slowing down, then I'll start looking into doing the full. But right now the training and the just idea of racing for 9+ hours is not super attractive to me.
Okay. And I guess really the last thing I have to ask is, what are your short-term goals, or do you have any ambitions for other than picking up your pro card possibly?
My short-term goals?
Yeah. What do you see in the near future that you can try to accomplish other than picking up your pro card?
I mean, 70.3 being new to me, I have some goals there, just like time-based. I want to go sub 4:30 in a 70.3, I think would be awesome. And then podium, getting a top 3 overall at a 70.3 would also be, I guess, another short-term goal. But it all eventually leads up to being a successful, competitive professional one day.
Do you think you really know how to race a 70.3 yet, or is that something you're going to try to figure out along the way?
I mean, the first one I did, Texas last year, I was definitely conservative on the bike. This one I know I have, so it was more so about the bike and making sure I didn't push too hard and just destroy myself for the run. And my running coach at the time had set a goal for me based on a standalone half marathon I had done 2 months prior. And so I kind of just arbitrarily threw out a watt power number to follow. And then I knew I could run a pretty solid pace as long as I stuck to that number. So I think my next one, I will be pushing the bike a little bit more, just because the run was difficult, but I was able to click off my times like I was planning on it. So maybe pushing the bike a little more, knowing that that's where you can make up the most time, might be the next move. But that's something I'll talk with my coach about and see his input.
So you do race with a power meter?
Yes, that was my first race that I did a power meter.
You told me that your coach is remote. How did you get hooked up with him?
I actually started talking to him last February, I believe. And I just found him through like following people on Instagram and like seeing like their kind of workouts, I guess, on Strava and Instagram. And I ended up calling him a few times, and we just had conversations about like how he trains his athletes and his like the science behind why he gives the workouts that he does. But then I didn't end up working with him until after Worlds last year. So I started with him just in October of 2019. And yeah, I've been with him since October, and it's been really well. Obviously, I wish I could race and prove that I think it's really paying off. Unfortunately, the race in February didn't go out as planned, or March, but I think the improvements are definitely coming in the workouts that he's given me that are based on power metrics and speed. So.
Do you think working with Train ATL has really helped you out too?
Train ATL, so I started running with them like 2 years ago, and I knew at that point that my run was by far my weakest of the 3, so I really wanted to just work on that, and that's when I started working with the coach at Train ATL, and he would just give me like 4 or 5 run workouts a week, and I would kind of schedule my swim and bike on my own around those, and I think that really helped me. He got me down from a 20-minute 5K to a sub 19-minute 5K off the bike. And I mean, he was awesome to work with, but ultimately I knew my sports triathlon, I need someone who can like intertwine all three and really get me to the top level that I can be in all three. But I still work like with him, and he like the Train ATL facility I go to because they still provide like recovery, strength, and all that, which is obviously very important to a well-rounded triathlete.
Okay. That's really all I had to ask you today. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna cut it here. So if you want to just talk, I don't care.
Yeah, how's your training going?
Not much of anything really. I just between like recovering from with the symptoms from the brain injury and the depression it caused and the isolation, it's kind of been like a perfect storm to just also possibly having a season canceled. It's like squashed any motivation I had. I don't want to do it, and I've just been occupying myself with other time. I was talking to TJ Tolikson about Diamond Bikes, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm working on these bikes, and if they ask me to train, like I'll put together an 8-week plan, maybe 6, and I'll race."
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, I'm just going to occupy myself with other stuff because I just don't think we're going to race anytime soon, and I just can't
Yeah.
motivate myself to be all in again.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm still pulling like 16, 17-hour training weeks. But like it is hard to be like, why am I doing this? Ideally, like I want to do a 5K or 10K just time trial just to do something. But
I mean, I'm like you where I need a carrot on the stick, and I just, I don't know when I'm going to get my carrot.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's tough. And I guess it's also disappointing that I had all these really cool plans for 2021 because when I was working as a consultant, I racked up a ton of sky miles and hotel points to where I was going to race a 70.3 every 3 or 4 weeks and do a 10 or 11 of them throughout the year because I could fly anywhere I wanted to, for about 3 years and not have to pay for a flight. And, not have to pay for a hotel. I'm like, well, I can just do whatever I want then. Except for 2021 is going to actually be 2020 season because everything's getting deferred.
yeah,
It's just kind of disappointing. It's like I kind of wanted something fresh rather than what I was going to do this year.
yeah. Yeah, I don't. It's just such a weird situation to be in. I feel like no one really knows what to do with themselves. People are still either training as hard as they normally would be, or they've given up. And which I mean, I don't blame them.
I mean, if we're racing by late fall, like when Gulf Coast comes around, I know Gulf Coast has not sold out, so they could still get an entry for that. So like maybe I'll hop in that, and then I'll do Daytona, just to get something done. But
I'm hoping like the smaller local races happen towards the end of the year.
that would be nice. I talked to a few of the smaller race directors for interviews, and the one guy who do the only independent full, he's like, we expect half of the independent races and production companies to go out of business because they can't withstand being all these deferments and paying for it.
Yeah.
That was disappointing because, I mean, I was just starting to get into do more independent races. I was kind of a little bit jaded with Ironman and don't really care for their experience.
Yeah. I had Galveston last year. I didn't really get the Ironman experience because 5 minutes after I finished, a huge storm came through and they canceled the race. So I didn't there's no award ceremony. There were no post-race food was not happening.
Yeah, and it's a funky course out there too. It's like 3 loops and it's hot as hell and humid.
It actually was. It was like perfect. I mean, of course, it was windy, but
I saw that run course, and that run course is like I just don't ever want to do this race. It kind of weaves. It does turnarounds all over the place.
It's like 3 or 4 loops, which I really like because it lets you keep track of where you are and where you're coming up on for each mile. Yeah, it was different pavement, grass, gravel. I don't know. It kept it interesting. It's better than just a straight out and back, I think.
The only time I like to do more than 2 loops is if I have somebody there to watch me. because it may be boring for me, but it works out better for them. Instead of being there for a 5-hour race, you only get to see you for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and my train ATL coach was there for that race.
Oh, I know JP.
Yeah, he was biking around and just yelling at me to keep going fast.
So he went to Galveston with you?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I think he had like a business meeting in Houston or something, or he was trying to meet with one of his old friends. I forget, but he figured he would just swing by. And
You guys drove there?
me and Matt Trick drove there. We
Okay.
carpooled. Yeah, it was fun.
If we race Daytona, okay, I'll carpool with you. I'm going by myself anyway.
Yeah. This weekend I took 3 extra days off work for Gulf Coast, and I haven't taken them back. So I was thinking about like driving to Texas or something to visit my friend that lives there, but 12 hours by myself.
Yeah, I did that. I don't do that anymore because after the accident, it hurt my hips. It gave me a pinched nerve. But like, I would race in Ohio because my parents lived there, and I signed up for Ohio 70.3 again. And I made the mistake of driving back from Columbus, like right after a race. Not only was it painful, but I had been up since 3 a.m., did a half Ironman, and then had to drive 10 hours. I got back at like 1 a.m. I was just wiped the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah, the way down we took 2 days, but on the way back we just straight shot it. Left at like 5:30 in the morning, got back at like 11 at night.
Yeah, I didn't even wait. I'm like, oh, we ate? We good? All right. My mom and dad, we left. And I've done that with a lot of other races, but I kind of use anchor points. Like I know a lot of people in the Midwest, stuff like that I'll stay with them for a couple of days to cut out some of the hotel bills, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I only have to pay for one night in the hotel.
Yeah, that helps.
I better let you get back to what you were doing. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Have fun.